Welcome back to another episode of the Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Rocheers. If you have been here before, welcome back. I love you guys. And I appreciate all the support and the continuous effort that we're all putting in to develop this thing. If you're new to it, we talk about 8 different areas of maturity. I'll run through them real quick since if you're new, then it's appropriate to do so. Although it is on the main page, if you go to the actual Maturity Project page, it also has that in writing there. But it is the areas of maturity, or the 8 areas, is 1, physical body; 2, community; 3, cognitive or intelligence; 4 is emotion; 5 is finance; 6 is business; 7 is sexuality; and 8 is spirituality or purpose. Those are the 8 areas of maturity, and I'll speak about those in their own unique ways, and explore different things. But I'm looking at the way that I look at the world is through the lens of that. So now, today's conversation, just want to talk about why we give up. And it's like a question that we really should ask ourselves. Even for myself, I'm 45 years old. This is another time in my life I'm revamping, and restructuring my life. For my purpose really is just, I finally threw in the towel on resisting my purpose. For the longest time, and the way that I kept, avoiding and kept fighting my purpose was I'd had real world challenges showing up, which is the right things to do at that time, right? Like, you've got your business life that you need to continue in. You've got to pay your bills. You've got your real world responsibilities that keep, reorganizing you in a way that holds you in place. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I kept sabotaging myself in the process of actually taking the step I needed to take. I would make videos and we'd be in this conversation on a regular basis for a while, and then just drop off. Life kept happening. I have to focus again, like when I changed industries from fitness to did OPE industry for a period of time, which is outdoor power equipment. So as I went out for that, I had to really focus on that area as well to study the business shift. If you're not familiar, also I fix gyms, want to restructure and put operating procedures in place, things like that, and make them profitable, change their culture, those kind of things. So I'll go into mom and pop type gyms, but they're fitness centers, general fitness, membership based. Anyway, not to go into that. That's not the conversation for today, but that is one of the things that my company, I have a company that does that. Now, this is the development education business that I'm creating, which is a Maturity Project, and this is an answer to all the problems that are out there. We've got a lot of challenges, and what happens at a rudimentary level, our parents will teach us what our parents teach us. That's all they have the capacity to do. Their life experiences and how they view the world, and that's part of their job, is to give us that information, offset us into society, so that it gives us whatever advantages that our parents can give us to the lessons they've had, and they have to survive, they have to pay their bills, and be the example that we should become. Now here's one of the problems that have affected us. Well, once we had both parents go into the workforce, which happened in the 70s into the 80s, we no longer had the stay-at-home moms as the predominant family structure. Then we had women enter the workforce at a dominant rate. What happened when that occurred is the family household income went up. With that increase in the income, people realized that there was more buying power in the family, so there was more things to sell them. Well, then you had keeping up with the Jones, where you had to have the nicer car in the neighborhood and you could afford it. You had 2 incomes at that time. It was much easier for the household at that time to afford these things. Get into it, then the next thing you know is income to debt ratio shift, where there's more debt now. Well, you have 2 incomes, you have a higher credit value whenever it comes to lending money, so people were taking more loans. So we had this interesting spiral, which also had it that businesses realized they could charge more for their products. So they started slowly increasing the cost of things to the point, and then whatever economic shifts that we had based off politics at the time. We just came out of a nasty, recession through the 70s in the United States. So we had this shifting taking place. Well, with all of that comes the attention from the family that the children would get from the mother and the father. Now they have their busy lives and their credit. They have these challenges that shifted their focus away from their kids. So it was harder to teach them lessons. They had other things that occupied their bandwidth, their radar. So So, and then you had a loss of that transfer of society preparation onto the children as far as the interactions and social decisions and things like that, moral decision making, religious attendance, things like that. I'm not pushing religion on anybody, just these are variables. These are factors of things that change for families. So we had all that take place. Well, what happens when there's a vacancy? You have to figure out how to create a solution. The Maturity Project's job is to come in and to create a solution to each one of those areas that our parents were not capable of passing down. Why do we keep having generation upon generation with this experience loss value that does not push us into a more structurally supportive way of the future being manifested? We're creating more destruction to systems, and we have all these problems going on right now. And we have the infiltration of people's agendas getting into our children now, because the kids have this vacancy of space that the parents once facilitated with their lessons for their generations that they have gained over the years. Now we have this vacancy. Of course, what happens in an economy when a vacancy shows up is something fills that void. There's something that of a resource to put effort into. So we have these things happening now. Well, we sit back, we either make fun of people that act out, that act silly. We have this all over the place. We've had issues with riots and the rest of this stuff. We're like, if that was my kid would have had his ass beat. It would have been spanked over that kind of behavior. I wouldn't want my kid out there destroying stuff. Well, now it's like we have such a loss from the generations. That's how parents would have been in the 80s. And hell, even in the 90s. I'd spank my kid for doing something like that. I'd go out there and whoop his little behind, bring him home. You're never doing that again. That's destroying, community. Now we have parents who are like, oh yeah, what political party? Okay, that's fine. We have this ridiculousness that has occurred in our society. Well, the Maturity Project's to come back in and let's restructure this stuff. I'm not coming from a political position. I'm an independent. It's my registration. I'm an independent. So I'm not coming to you as a Democrat or Republican. This is, how do we restore our families in such a way that we can pass on those lessons? We can make a more structured and strategic future for our children and for ourselves. How do we start shedding off all these extra stresses that we're dealing with? My relationships, there's no good men or no good women in the world. Well, yeah, the focus is in the wrong place. You're focusing in the world to make up the difference for you, instead of you figure out how you're supposed to fit into the world. Well, the Maturity Project's going to help you figure out those parts that are lacking, that you may have that immaturity in. Where, by the way, a child is the one that says that somebody owes them something. An adult says, you know what, you owe me something, but if you won't give it to me, I'll go make it myself. A child's the one that says, the world is unfair. The adult goes, the world is unfair. And sooner or later, that unfairness will come around in my favor. Because I'm going to condition myself every single time the unfair shows up for me, and to figure out somebody else has a leverage point against where I am to be the beneficiary of that moment. I'm going to work my ass off and develop the skills necessary to outmaneuver that unfairness and make it fair for me. By the way, I'm not talking about taking advantage of other people. I'm talking about developing yourself to be a more functional and mature human being. Because if it was about taking advantage of other people, it would violate a tenet value of the Maturity Project, which is do not negatively impact your community. Now, by the way, there's a way of understanding what's negative and positive in this entire thing as well. So this is what we stand for. We are out to make a difference. You are not to take advantage of other people in any kind of malicious way. And if you believe that you're at the right level of maturity to offer a lesson to somebody in a way that is truly virtuous to teach the lesson, you better be really damn mature to get to that point where you actually can do something that's more godlike. We don't have that capacity in most of us to do a godlike lesson to somebody. And what I mean by a godlike lesson is that I know that the outcome of this will be a net benefit for you, and I am willing to create the challenge necessary for that outcome to become real for you. But you are the person that set up the challenge in order to do that for them. How to do that and not be viewed as evil takes such a degree of maturity that the majority of people will likely never even achieve it. The godlike lesson, right? Would you be upset with God if you found out the hardship you're going through is to make you a better person for the future outcome? No, you're not going to be mad at God about that, because you see that that's an act of development and benefit for you, which is also termed as an act of love for you. What human being possesses that type of ability? There are people out there that have been able to do that successfully and have people thank them for it. but you're likely not there. So I would not suggest taking that route until you've developed yourself in such a way. Because if you have any degree of hypocrisy, which you're almost guaranteed to have, you're going to have the essence of evil show up when they recognize that you have hypocrisy in your background and now you're trying to do a God lesson on somebody. It really will, even if everything you're doing in that God lesson is accurate and it's wonderful and beneficial, that hypocrisy is what will be your Achilles heel. And you'll know it too. It'll show up. You'll realize it. I feel like a hypocrite for these reasons. So I'm not coming to you to be preachy. This is what the Maturity Project's about. It is to expand your mind, to expand your thinking, and let's take you someplace else. Let's create something freaking great, man. Like really, we can sit around and we can talk about things, but here's the thing. You've got to take this stuff into action. We can talk about it all you want. To go back to the beginning of this video, why have I failed? Why have I not implemented some of these things in my life? And why am I 45 years old and this is where I'm at now? Is simple. I didn't believe in myself enough. I had my challenges because I'm like, you know what? In my entire life, I have been told, Chad, when you speak, things change. Chad, when you speak, I can't help but want to be in that conversation. Chad, when we talk, I want to stay in that conversation. I have had people from the businesses that I've been involved with tell me that they want to find a way to just keep hearing me talk about stuff because it expands their mind. Now, I'm not saying I'm a guru. I'm not. I'm just wired this way. It's the way that I am with everybody. I just like to talk about things that are meaningful and create thoughts that are engaging and could make a difference for us. I love doing that. So having people tell me that it's such an honor that they want to stay in these conversations. Well, here's the reason why I felt so much hesitation towards doing it is because I can do that when the person's in front of me. I can have that conversation, talk about something meaningful when they're in front of me, and to be completely humble when I'm supposed to be humble, which is, look, you don't want somebody to think you're arrogant, and I don't personify that. That's not, and if I do, it's not because of me. I don't feel arrogant at all. I feel that, I'm very curious and I'm humble and I will admit when I'm wrong, and I do often. So, but you have this gauging value when you're with somebody that you can truly connect with them. And that's where those conversations become so magnificent. This type of format where I'm just talking to the camera like a crazy person in my car, mobile office, or sitting at the backyard on the patio or whatever, it's like, it's not as easy to have a conversation that's that engaging. I'm impassioned right now because, look, I have not talked about this education in this way. This education is that, look, I'm tired of sitting on my couch and, watching on television, which actually this is not the real case for me. I don't really watch television. But anyway, I'm tired of sitting around seeing that people are going through some crap, getting a video off of one, like I'd watch something on YouTube or Rumble or wherever I'm watching my videos, which is my common thing. I watch things that help educate me and expand my understanding of things, not music as much. Very, very seldomly do I do music. And I'm not against it. I have a higher interest in learning than just experiencing the music. You can learn through music as well, but look, that's not me. Not a musicologist or anything like that. That's not my background, not my interests, but put me with somebody like that. Sure, I'll expand my horizons, right? But that's what I do. I listen to these videos, I watch this stuff, and then you see people acting out. You see people that don't know the law, and then they swear they know it. They bring whatever challenges that they have about the situation they're going through from their very biased position because they're involved in it. And then they make an ass out of themselves. Instead of sitting there going, what an idiot. I don't sit there with the what an idiot. I sit there going, what aspects of their development are missing and how will we get that to bring them back to the point that they understand what they're doing right now is causing these problems. Because laws are supposed to be written to mitigate the harm caused to another person in our society and to continue to keep our society working cohesively together, so, where we are able to have the same types of freedoms. So you can't, hold somebody's race, their religion, or their sexual preferences against them when it comes to business, right? There's laws for that. But when you see somebody violate those types of laws, you hear their justification for it, you're like, what's missing? Why don't they understand this? And that they're living inside of a belief that what their complaint is right now is true, which means their reality has a divergence from another person's reality. It's very similar It's just the agreement that that actually is or is not acceptable is present. So, anyway, all right. So as we continue, with my mobile office always offers this wonderful moment of making sure safety over the conversation is definitely a must. So anyway, this is the maturity project. Its intention is to be a solution to the missing development pieces that should have been there, that our parents would have preferred us to have had. By the way, where did the generation lose it? Like, where inside of this did our generations lose the information, like the intent to pass it on? Sure, I can say it's the 70s and 80s. It might have started before that. It may have came after that. It's just, look, that's not the most important piece. The more important piece is just understand that that has been something that's happened. If you study that, if you look into it, you see, whenever we had one family incomes, or family households with one income, stay-at-home parent nearly always was the mother, because they're also genetically they're more geared towards nurturing, and the father's more geared towards bringing in the resources for the family to do well. Now, it's not an equality issue conversation or anything like that. We just have that genetic predispositioning, the programming that we are genetically given or bestowed. So, then we have women entering, and they brought their unique skill sets into the workforce, and then they created new values in the industries, which is all a net positive, but we had a trade-off. It's not 100% net positive. There's a lot of net positives to that, but there was a trade-off. What was traded off was the house attention, the family rearing. Well, your children are your future, and your children's children are the family's future, right? Like, we are always going to be putting that into the future. If you send your kid off to college and your kid comes back and they hate you, but they loved you when they left, what happened? What did they learn while they were gone? And had they actually been taught more of the maturity projects areas, the 8 different areas of maturity, which gives you access to teach you and the downstream of what the generations get, what was missing that they would have gotten that would have been the defense against accepting that you're a bad person? And this is happening, by the way. Kids are coming back and they hate their parents and say that their success is on somebody else's back and all the rest of this crap because they're being radicalized in colleges. There's no secret on this side, by the way. I'm no fan of the standardized college system anymore. It's higher academia has lost my support in most of it. The humanities, definitely. The business and the STEM side of things, I'm still more of an advocate for. But anyway, but yeah, when you get into what happened, psychology is my love. It just seemed to be geared towards understanding people, and that was an area of high interest for me. It's betrayed the American people. So this education is to fill in that stuff, not to fill in the academic side of it. It's the connection piece, the fulfillment of life. We're not being taught how to have a fulfilling life. Well, if you address all 8 areas of maturity, your fulfilling opportunities will come up. You won't be as distracted. Simple, just, by the way, this is something I hear all the damn time. People say that I don't want to grow up. I don't want to stop having fun in life. I want to continue to enjoy myself. The whole adulting and how it's a negative thing or whatever. I've never looked at adulting as being a negative thing. But there's a lot of people that feel that way. I don't want to grow up. Well, here's the interesting thing about it. What is it that you really like about not growing up? Is it being playful? Is it enjoying the moment in such a carefree way? Because if that's the case, guess what? That's not what maturing does not affect that in any negative way. What maturing does is it makes you outgrow your insecurities. You can still play, you can still run through the meadows, you can play with dandelions and all the rest of that stuff, joke, be whatever weird you want to be. But you do it in a way that does not have the insecurity that takes you out of it. Now, if you have valid reasons for the insecurity, guess what you do with the maturity project? You look at that and you say, how can I develop that? How can I make this less of an insecurity? If the insecurity is coming from your community because you're acting in a way that is truly, disruptive to the society, to the community, then if you hear it often enough, you always bring it back to what is it? Is it true? Is it about me and what can I do to actually improve this and not lose the fun that I'm having? It's great like that. Anyway, I'm not going to sit back and complain without any kind of intention to create a solution. I'm not going to join into the drama of, he said, she said. I listen for what's the solution, what's the cause, and what's the solution. What can we do about that? And how can we do it in a way that you can actually potentially even get the person that conversation has been about, that is traumatic or whatever, whoever you have the problem with. What if you actually got them enrolled in the change that you're making in yourself in such a way that you could see them do the same? Like, could you imagine, instead of spreading that kind of hate that we've been doing, where it's like, oh, screw you, and you wronged me, and I'm going to use this dramatic mechanism of communication and thought to get you, to harm you and your social standing, your community standing with other people. Instead of that, which is the common, right? How many people on freaking social media just can't wait for that juicy piece of meat to jump out there? That red meat is what they refer to it as, the drama fight. Instead, you're like, man, that actually hurt. That sucked. I don't like that. I'm going to make some changes here. And actually, I know that you're pretty upset right now, but I'm going to make some changes here. Would you be open to doing that with me? Like right now, I get it. You're not happy with me, but I didn't do it to hurt you. Or if you did do it to hurt, I did it to hurt you, but I understand a little bit more why I did it, and it's really not you. Or it's because I misunderstood something, or I'm jealous of something that you have. You're in better shape than me. Would you be open to going to the gym with me? I realized I made some mistakes. Do you imagine what kind of world we create if we actually had that level of ability to communicate, to make a desirable change? My God, man, we've really changed this world. And it would be one person at a time. But you got to change you first. And the only thing you got to really change about you is the fact that, hey, we're all different. Use the maturity project to see the differences in such a way that it's actually, you're just more mature there. You've had more time to get developed there. You just have an advantage because of your growth in that area, but I can now see it and I can develop it in myself. That's it. All right. Well, hey, I'm not going to continue on right now. I think I've kind of got my message out there as far as I really want to for now in the mobile office anyway. I'll continue this conversation. If you're interested in more of it, be a contributor to it, or to just figure out how you can consume this at a higher level, or support the early grassroots efforts to really build this thing up, send me an email. yourmaturityproject@gmail.com. That's YOUR maturityproject@gmail.com. YOUR, your. So, also don't forget, subscribe to the channel. The more people that get subscribed, it does create a validity for people, and they see it. They're like, hey, other people agree this thing is something of value. Like the video so that it does move around the algorithm a bit more, and comment. That actually helps a lot too. Love to hear what you guys are getting out of this series or any of these episodes. So, until next time, I'm the host of the Maturity Project. I'm Chad Everett Broshears. The path to hell is paved with a lot of good intentions. It's the areas that you don't see coming, and even within yourself, that causes all the problems. That turns it into the path to hell. We don't got to go there. We can pave this road wherever the hell it is we want to go, but we got to make the decision we're going to change things. So, all right. Last thing. We grow through what we go through. We're going to take yesterday's mistakes and upsets, turn it into soil, turn it over, man. We're going to plant something new. Let's do it together. Let's get up to this. See you.